The Nigerian wedding industry is a global industry worth billions of naira or millions of dollars. Now, this estimation is not my words. This data is according to a 2017 CNN report and several reputable media sites. This million-dollar industry includes designers, planners, and everyone involved in the value chain. While it will be interesting to talk about all of that, I'm more interested in talking about how Instagram and Twitter have shaped Nigerian wedding fashion in a post-2010 world. So, in this video, I'll explore how our wedding fashion evolved from this to a point where we're all asking the question,
She to breathe, Mama.
Saying that Nigerian weddings are communal and a cultural marker of identity will be stating the obvious. I'll say it anyway, Nigerian weddings are as diverse and colorful as the over 250 ethnic groups we have in this country. In fact, I'll go as far as saying weddings are our equivalent of balls and red carpets. They hold more cultural significance for our fashion as a collective than red carpet events. There are celebrities who have consistently given nothing on red carpet, but always seemingly understand the assignment when they are dressed in asoebi. Sometimes what our celebrities wear to red carpet events is reminiscent of asoebi styles. Speaking of cultural significance, for instance, while the American Met Gala event platforms costume and fashion designers and holds importance for the fashion and art scene, I don't think any of the red carpet events we have does that. People are arguably more interested in knowing who designed a bride's dress than they are in what celebrities wear to red carpet events, let's be honest. There are very good explanations for this, but that's not the focus of this video. Yeah. For this video, I'll analyze the evolution of traditional bridal dress, particularly looking at the influence of social media on this evolution. Well, as for the groom and wedding guests,
I guess we'll never know.
Growing up, every time I went with my mom to the tailor's shop to sew Ankara, they gave us these event magazines as inspiration for styles. Now, the pictures in these magazines or style catalogs weren't of the highest quality, but they usually had fashionable women cropped out of all kinds of random occasions and dressed in Ankara or lace fabric, yeah. And these women always look good, yeah. I enjoyed flipping through the pages of these magazines, trying to find a style that might interest me or suggesting a style to my mom. Some newspapers also had these style sections, and I remember taking clippings of styles we liked to the tailors. Now, I knew the event magazines were a thing for my mom and I, but I wanted to understand how significant they were to everyone else. To understand how wedding fashion has evolved in the last decade, I considered how people found inspiration before Pinterest and Instagram. I found an interesting paper by Okechukwu published in 2010 titled Asoebi, Fashioning Self Through Photography and Fashion Magazines in Nigeria. In this paper, Okechukwu argues that in defining our post-colonial fashion sense, Nigerian women looked inward. In his words, to make sense of the indeterminate, powerless spaces in which they live, the post-colonial subjects of Nigerian women in the 21st century adopted forceful images of traditional dress styles in the local fashion magazines to create an independent cosmopolitanism that to them is quintessentially Nigerian. Okay, that's a mouthful. This act of looking inward to define our fashion sense was facilitated by two things. The first is our willingness to happily share our celebrations in mass media. By the 60s, we had mastered the art of sharing images of our cultural celebrations in newspapers. I have a quote from the same paper on the screen. You should read it, by the way. It's a really good paper. My assumption is that the celebrations covered by the newspapers were those of Nigerian elites at the time, but the paper didn't say that. It's just a guess that wealthier Nigerians would have had better access to media coverage in the 60s. And the second one is technology. Well, the camera. Photography and the ubiquitous nature of these event magazines, similar to the ones I was fond of at the tailor's shop, was as a result of heightened visual practices by the emerging movie industry. One has to wonder what facilitated these heightened visual practices. The 1980s was a good decade for the camera globally and a time when photography became more accessible in Nigeria. With the establishment of photo printing and developing laboratories, for instance, AGFA. I don't know if it's AGFA or it's an acronym, but I saw it in a paper. A generation of freelance photographers emerged. All they needed was a camera and the willingness to find clients.
Well, technology is a glittering lure, but there's the rare occasion when the public can be engaged on a level beyond flash, if they have a sentimental bond with the product.
These wedding event magazines and freelance photographers led to the eventual decline of photo studios. The reduction in the wait time to get colored photographs and the opportunity to appear in a magazine from posing for pictures at an event eclipsed the at least 120-year-old Nigerian culture of visiting photo studios. It makes me wonder if Instagram hasn't overthrown the need for printed event magazines. I mean, the last time I was at the tailor's, I went with a picture of an Instagram screenshot, which was essentially a selfie and someone else's selfie, and definitely not an image that was taken professionally by a photographer or a newspaper clipping. Collecting images for this research was challenging. My God. Instagram was the Instagram was the perfect place for that, but the search feature was unhelpful. Who would have thought that Elon Musk's Twitter would be my saving grace? I hope he never thinks of monetizing Twitter's advanced search feature. Bellanaija Weddings is one of Nigeria's foremost wedding entertainment sites. Its parent company, bellanaija, was founded in 2006. While it isn't clear when the wedding arm of the entertainment site was launched, the earliest tweet I could find was in February 2013. I also found an announcement tweet on the launch of bellanaija Weddings Instagram page. So a good guess is that bellanaija set up its wedding arm sometime between 2012 and 2013. For that reason, I look at data from like 2013 to present. We have over 250 ethnic groups. Yes, I know you paid attention in your social studies class, but I only considered four of them: Igbo, Yoruba, Edo, and Ibibio/Efik. Why, you may ask? I'll answer. I'll tell you why. The Yoruba and Igbo weddings are the most documented. My first instinct was to chalk this up to the Lagosification of Nigerian media. I'll also admit that I don't entirely know why that is. Yeah, so Ibibio or Efik, an Edo bridal wedding, because I am familiar with this due to being Ibibio myself and the distinctiveness of the Edo bridal dress. I'll describe 2013 to 2015 as a period where we were discovering our identity as a collective online. We weren't as confident with sharing ourselves as we are now. And we also explained ourselves in expressing elements of our culture online. The subtleties of language are interesting. I found it fascinating that in 2013, bellanaija Weddings post described white brides as brides and, spelled out the nationality of African brides. For instance, Nigerian brides, Ghanaian brides. Okay, quick correction. I said that bellanaija Weddings post described white brides as brides and spelled out the nationality of African brides. That is for instance, using Nigerian brides, Ghanaian brides, and even down more specifically to tribe like Edo, Benin, etc., etc. That's true. However, what is not entirely true is the fact that they described white brides as brides. Um, I'm looking again at the images and realizing that they described um, anyone wearing the white wedding dress. So that's distinction in language. and needing to explain ourselves um, only happened when we're we're wearing our traditional dresses, or people were wearing traditional dresses. Um, while even if they're African and they're wearing the white wedding dress, they'll be described as brides. So yeah. There was also the over dramatized pre wedding photo shoots people were fond of at the time. My theory, because I like theorizing, is that this need to explain ourselves or over exaggerate our expressions online stemmed from a place of feeling like our culture isn't well known and understood, or maybe we are just dramatic people. Yeah, that could be it too. It's beautiful to observe how we now comfortably take up space online. It's also beautiful to see how the latest post on bellanaija Wedding describes the brides as belle. No explanation needed. Even if they are wearing a traditional dress. As an aside, I found it cute how bellanaija Wedding started off using first person language in their post, and that's understandable because the drive for launching the wedding arm of the entertainment site was the personal story of one of the founders. Looking back at 2013 to 2015, the idea of what an online mine of inspiration for a Nigerian wedding should look like was new. bellanaija Wedding most likely took inspiration from other similar global websites for their content plan. At that time, they were also gradually cementing themselves as a wedding tastemaker, at least in Nigeria. From my short stint working in socials, yeah, I'm a bit of an expert, you know. I'm a bit of an expert, right? I know that brands plan content around their audience interest or assumed interest. Sometimes it's assumed. For bellanaija Wedding, they probably designed the content around what they thought interested Nigerian brides. Even if they design, I'd like to say this, even if the content planning may not have been as elaborate as it would be now or as elaborate at the time, some planning was still happening there. Some design was still happening there. I also think that while the content design reflected bellanaija's weddings, understanding of the audience, also held some truth about its audience, that's Nigerian aspirations. Doing a quick search on bellanaija Weddings Twitter using the words collection and looks from 2013 to 2015, the posts or blog articles that documented local wedding inspirations were mainly makeup and natural hair inspiration. Vera Wang, Allure Dresses, Better Bridal. These are the names that consistently came up for wedding dress inspiration. It's almost as if there was a bigger emphasis on the white wedding dress at that time. Damask gilly, classic lace Iru and Buba, lace blouse and two-step wrapper, and chunky beads characterized this period. And though everyone was wearing lots of beads, not just the Edo brides, there were also the occasional show of Asho Figili and Iru with Buba made out of lace. Yeah, there was that, but mostly it was damask gilly at that time. My favorite thing about this period is that the gillies still had personalities. Oh, they did. 2016, what a year. I mean, people and brands were gradually becoming extra cautious of their image online. Instagram was evolving from an app where people document cute and beautiful moments with their friends and families to a lifestyle curation app. Also, with the release of the Wedding Party movie, the first Wedding Party movie came out the same year, and our growing comfortability with expressing elements of our culture online, Nigerian weddings had become a spectacle, and some individual weddings an internet sensation. At this point, we were losing the gilly wars to the Otugilis. We were losing it, guys.
Everybody body party, I'm gonna look me up and down. I go shake my head. left and right. So that them go know say my girl get it shine shine. I go and cut this party, so my girl I your fanda. Even mama Sikira, I see mama she soba. I know say they like my girl, but they no go compliment. If you see my girl, it go wound everybody. Girl, me got you to yellow. 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 Girl, me got Oga be sign board. Girl, me got you to yellow. Girl, me got you to yellow.
In December 2016, something interesting happened. Stephanie Coker, a celebrity, at a traditional wedding. And because there is no such thing as a coincidence, there is no such thing. I think that Stephanie Coker's wedding dress launched the Diola Sego Komole as the silhouette of what is now the Nigerian Yoruba bridal dress. Yeah.
This stuff? Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. And you're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets. I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores, and then...
While I couldn't find commentary on her dress on Twitter, the dress was a conversation on this blog I found. If it isn't already obvious, she was wearing a Diola Sego. Specializing in designing bespoke clothing and bridal wear, Diola Sego is one of the 3 brands under the House of Diola. Now we've seen how Instagram and Twitter are playing a role and kind of have some influence in the evolution of Nigerian wedding fashion. Let's unpack some themes surrounding how we got to this point and where we are headed post 2016. We'll look at the external influences that we simply cannot ignore, how the media and law are intertwined in this web. Lastly, Bridgerton and the concepts, that played a role too. So let's get into it. I read a paper on the narrative power of dress in Nigerian museums by Louisa Onowa. Don't worry, all papers are listed in the description box. It hints at the Dutch and Austrian influence in the Ankara and Swiss laces we wear. There are different schools of thought on whether or not these Swiss laces and Hollandic Ankara are African or Nigerian, but that's not the focus here. What I found most fascinating was the silhouette of the Onyonyo dress. Hello, yes, it's me from a future recording. So I realized after recording the video, I got the pronunciation of the dress wrong. So I did some digging, I did some research, and it is pronounced Onyonyo. Onyonyo. Okay, I think that's better than what I did before, but yeah. Efik and Ibibio brides wear is influenced by Victorian era dresses. Quoting Louisa Onoa, one of Slessor's most memorable accomplishments is her role in stopping the killing of twins. Before the final abolition of the killing of twins in Calabar, Slessor had already resolved to rescue the babies and had a home full of them. Perhaps these qualities endeared her to the people, and for they admired her and wanted to be like her. They emulated her ways, and the Victorian-style gown was not left out. This was one of the ways Onyonyo gained prominence among the Efik women of Calabar. I don't know why I never made that connection Calabar was a major slave trading port from the 17th to 18th century. So I guess I should have pieced it together. Well, maybe not. I took my L in peace for not making that connection before reading this paper. I also found this brilliant thread on Twitter by Edco the Boy. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. That captures the Western influence of this new look that has, shaped our wedding fashion or defined what, brides dress like. The thread is linked in the description box. However, I'll read out some tweets to give you better context. Back to the drawing board again. So Diola Sego followed the money and revamped the Komole idea and took it to New York. She went with fully Western styling and cuts and shared all the Nigerian heritage in Komole. New York loved it, but they ultimately didn't buy. The New York collection was in 2014, by the way. It was launched in tandem with Clan, whose more youthful silhouette and mass appeal made it an instant hit with Nigeria's rising independent 20 to 35 demographic. That must have motivated Diola Sego to rebrand again. In 2016, she relaunched Komole as a bridal line, rewrote the brand identity for the design and manufacturing technique, and sold it as purely a Niger bridal luxury symbol. Here is bellanaija article from the launch, compare it to retro classic. I clicked on that link, but sadly it was another reminder of the fact that the internet does forget. And yeah, the internet forgets, and with a lot of dead links, the internet forgets things. Yeah. Looking at the Wing collection designs from 2012, Diola Sego had perfected the art of having lace patterns on the Ashoke fabric, true to the ethos of our brand. The silhouettes from the collection feel very familiar. The A-line cuts from the designs showcased at the Mercedes-Benz fashion show in South Africa and revamped in 2013 as retro classic to Nigerians are reminiscent of the types of cuts I saw in everyday Ankara dresses around me, at the time. However, when she revamped the Komole and took it to New York in 2014, she discontinued the use of the Ashoke, and the cuts got slimmer and cinched in the waist, going for a design that will appeal to a Western audience as she was marketing it in New York, obviously. Let's look at this red dress from the 2014 collection. Yeah, it stood out to me because we can see, well, I can see the silhouette of what a current day Yoruba bridal wedding dress was inspired by the cuts from that collection targeted at the New York market. Cultures have always and still interact, I think it's safe to assume that Western influence will always be present in Nigerian fashion. Like, we can't run away from it. However, the motivation for this influence has evolved. While the Onyonyo dressed by the Efik women was an appreciation of a colonial figure, Diola Sego's Komole is driven by market forces and the assumed market for high fashion. By 2017, the dresses were getting slimmer and slimmer. Yoruba brides were now donned in ashofi or ashoki from head to toe. The beads people used in accessorizing, their looks had become smaller. Yeah, they had become smaller too. The fitted and slimmer nature of the Komole dress was seeping into wedding dresses by other designers and for other cultures. The rise of Komole-inspired designs or attempts at replicating that design for Yoruba brides only grew stronger in 2018. I think there was a strong need for distinction for brands trying to capture the Nigerian bridal dress market. And for Diola Sego, who had basically defined this new look, that need was stronger. In April 2018, I just noticed that I've used 2018 and 2018. Please Take me as I am. In April 2018, Diola Sego released an ad for a new collection, Komole Turns the Bijou. Literally, forgive my French. Forgive my French, please. That ad quickly became controversial on Twitter. While Instagram was the place to showcase clothes and collections, it didn't facilitate fashion critique, at least not in the Nigerian context. Twitter was the place for that. A lot of people on Twitter disapproved of our choice of models, particularly the fact that all but one of them was black. On the other hand, there were others who approved of the ad because #Diola Sego to the world. It was the crossover to other markets the brilliance of Nigerian fashion deserved. Contrary to all popular opinions held at the time, even if my opinion is like five years late, I think I'm entitled to having it and we can all agree. I think that ad was signaling distinction to a different local demography, Nigerian elites. It wasn't necessarily an ad targeted at a Western audience, and here's why. Here's why I think so. I'll explain. The collection was described as Nigeria's regal gift to the world. The subtlety in the choice of models and language. It was Komole, but Komole turned the bijou, and it was selling royalty. Every bride can be a princess, every family royalty. It was Nigerian. It was. But it was foreign at the same time. And if you ask me, it fits nicely into the box of what Nigerian elites aspire to. Also, Nigerian weddings have a look and feel. A lot of women globally look forward to what they wear at their weddings, and this is largely shaped by their cultural upbringing. In a world where cultural appropriation is a recurring trending topic for online racial discourse, what is the incentive for a non-black woman to dress in a wedding dress marketed and steeped in the Yoruba culture? Unless, of course, she's marrying a Nigerian man. What's really the incentive? Now, it's important to note that I'm not speaking of Diola Sego's intentions. The goal here is not to moralize. After all, arts are not created in a vacuum. They are driven by the culture and the aspirations of people, right? The trend of replicating Diola Sego's Komole-inspired design was growing stronger in 2019. She released a new collection in 2019, Diola Tropical Galactica Spring Summer 01 sorry. And it came with an intellectual property warning. She asked the copycats to back off. I couldn't find a breakdown of what the copyright covered online. I really searched, guys. Like, I searched. When I mean I searched, I really searched. So if you find that, if you found that, or if you know what the breakdown covers, please leave a comment or please share something I can go and read about that. Well, no surprises here because fashion law is a relatively new field globally. Recently, I watched a 2015 Vogue interview where Susan Scafidi, the professor who founded the Fashion Law Institute, the first of its kind and only in the US at the time of the interview, shared how lax the fashion law was in America and how she had to fight to set up the institute. I was curious about what fashion law looks like in Nigeria, and the only thing I found was an Instagram page for the Fashion Law Institute in Nigeria. I think it was founded in 2020 or 2019. Yeah. I love their carousels, creating awareness on fashion law, and I wish they had a case study analysis of on the copyright of this Diola Sego collection. With the prices of our dresses going for, I guess it wouldn't be surprising that people find our designs aspirational and other designers were making copies or close to copies of our designs. I mean, Nigeria is a country where like 50% of people earn below $1,100 yearly. And the silhouette of traditional wedding dresses is trend-based and arguably cultural uniform wear. What was usually the marker of wealth is the type of fabric people use. So it's a tricky one. I really wish I could see what that copyright covered. Copies or not, a Diola Sego always stands out. Anyone can tell it apart from other wedding dresses. The tailoring is impeccable. I think Nigerian wedding fashion is currently in this modern, fast-paced experimentation phase. This has been going on since 2016, 2017-ish. While modern may describe a different look and feel in global fashion, Nigerian designers are experimenting with our traditional bridal dress and fashioning a modern look. Modern fashion in the Nigerian context is taking on a new meaning, right? And this move away from the traditional and experimentation with a modern look for Nigerian weddings has influenced the presentation of wedding fashion. Diola Sego started the first collection for Nigerian traditional weddings. However, more designers are getting on that train. This is very apparent in the use of the word modern bride to describe bridal inspiration looks or in the press release of bridal look collections. Diola Sego's 2016 and 2018 bridal collections inspired other designers to create collections of traditional bridal dresses. A far cry from what we had in 2013 to 2015, a time we were asserting our identity online and there were no visible traditional bridal collections. The earliest example of this is Marcel's bridal Elewa Asiko collection. We even had the Lagos Bridal Wedding Fashion Week in 2018. I'm not sure if it happened in 2020 because I saw the announcement on their Instagram page, but I didn't see runway pictures. But all in all, it was a great decade for Nigerian wedding fashion. I went into this research with a theory that the first season of Bridgerton is responsible for why we are all asking.
She to breathe, Mama.
Looking at traditional wedding pictures online from 2017 to 2019, women were now wearing dresses with slimmer, snatched waists, very different from what we had before 2016. But there were no corsets until 2020. So my first guess was definitely Bridgerton. However, I read this article on why corsets are having a moment in 2020 by the Zoe report and realized that celebrities in the US were already wearing different iterations of corsets in 2019, and some designers had corset-inspired clothing in their collection from the fall-winter 2019 fashion season. The pandemic also had a lot of people romanticizing cottagecore in 2020. This made me realize I wrote a thread in defense of the aesthetic girlies and how it was important for people to escape their realities during the pandemic. Did I just quote myself? Yeah, I did. This corset trend trickled down into Nigerian wedding fashion. Styled by Rivero, Vicky James, and Tubu Bereni are some of the designers that have made the corseted look their brand signature. I needed to get a sense of when corsets peaked in Nigeria, so I got on my Zoom. Using Google Trends to understand the volume of search for corsets over the last 5 years in Nigeria, I contrasted it with the numbers from the US, where we've established the trend originated in 2019 and 2020. Looking at the American and Nigerian data side by side, it was glaring that as much as we now have shorter trend cycles in fashion, trend cycles last longer in Nigeria. I'm not sure why this is. Maybe I'll explore it in another video. But while the search for corsets peaked in America and Nigeria in 2021 and 2022 respectively, corset-related search is still high in Nigeria compared to the US. From the top 5 related search queries, Americans are searching for brand-specific corset dresses or tops, while Nigerians are searching for how to make corset using fabric local to us. This makes sense because we are seeing the need to localize global trends reflecting our wedding fashion. and corsetry is a skill more and more people are trying to acquire here. Whew. This was my first time creating a video essay and writing a script. I struggled with coming up with an ending that wraps this up nicely. Yeah. Maybe I should talk about why I'm doing this. Yeah, I think that's the best way to wrap this up, especially because this is my first video. So it might be better for me to talk about why I'm doing this. Okay, so let me go. I'm an old soul, but for real, I'm an old soul, and I love learning about the past, researching, observing, analyzing, and unpacking culture and human behavior. I also love fashion, of course. My biggest push for doing this is because these are the kind of stories I'd love to read about Nigerian fashion. So instead of wishing someone else told the story for me, I decided to do it and share my learnings with everyone who sees this. Fashion is also the most accessible and powerful art form we interact with. I mean, we all make fashion decisions every day, so why not discuss it? Thank you for watching. I guess it's time I tell you to like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Share it with your friends. Actually, share it with your friends who like fashion and those who claim, because all they do is claim, who claim they don't have fashion. So far, they are not naked. Share it with them. Yeah, leave comments. I'd like to know what you think of it and if you like more videos like this. And of course, expect more videos about anything fashion related that piques my curiosity. Bye.